I lied because February is my best reading month. Hi guys, this is Stan. Today let's talk about all the fantasy books that I have read in February. I have done really well in this month. I have hit my goal of reading at least 4 books in a month, even though I have DNF a book halfway through. Besides, I have also listened to my very first audiobook, which was a pleasant experience. In terms of genre, they are all fantasies other than the DNF, which is a sci-fi. Out of these 4 fantasies, one of them is an urban fantasy and the rest is high fantasy. With these 3 high fantasies, one of them is a murder mystery, one of them is a historical fantasy, and the last one is a Japanese-inspired military fantasy. In terms of the rating, I have enjoyed reading majority of them. After chatting about these books individually, by the end of the video, I will do a tier ranking of the books that I have read because I'm not good at giving stars or giving any ratings of the books. So here comes to the first book that I finished in February. It is Voyage of the Damned by Francis White. It is Gospel January GSFF book. I did have a good time with this book because this book is not like other epic fantasy. It is about a murder mystery, which is quite refreshing. In this book, we follow Ganymedes, who is an heir to the fish province in Concordia. Together with the other 11 heirs, they embarked a journey on the sea to the sacred Godness Mountain to inherit their power. Every heir should be able to possess a special power called the Blessing, but not for Ganymedes. To everyone's surprise, there was suddenly a series of murders committed on this ship. No one is safe on this journey, and our main character, Ganymedes, decided to play the detective. What I like about this book is it is not too long, but there is an interesting political relationship between the North and the South in Concordia. I also like our main characters, Ganymedes. He is hilarious and try to figure out what is going on this ship. At the same time, he would talk with the 11 heirs on this ship to understand to learn their paths. I really like the fact that all the heirs on this ship got their own paths. Even though we are following 12 characters on this journey, you don't feel anyone was missing out or you don't feel overwhelmed to understand every single one of them. There are histories between these characters. Us as the readers can follow all the clues given by Ganymedes and try to guess who is the murderer. I am quite satisfied and happy with the ending. There is a little bit of romance in this book, which I think is just right. The only criticism I have is how Ganymedes talk with the other heirs to understand their past. I think that part is a little bit repetitive and it is a bit easily done. But overall, I do think that I had a good time with this murder mystery journey. The next book I read is a subgenre that I am a little bit scared of, which I have done a separate reading vlog to document this process, and it is A Brick, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. To my surprise, I did have a good time reading my very first romantasy. In this book, we follow 2 main characters. One is Bryce, who is a half-fae. She was having a great work life and also a party life, until one of her closest friends got murdered. Since then, she suffered from PTSD and her life was seriously affected by it. 2 years later, a similar murder happened again, and it looks like Bryce was the key to it. She agreed to help with the investigation and hopefully she would revenge for her closest friend. The other POV is a fallen archangel, Hunt. Because of what their group has done in the past, now, Hunt was like a slave to do some dirty work. With the new murders coming up and to help his boss to build a better image of the Crescent City, Hunt agreed to work with Bryce to track down all the murderers, and hopefully he would regain his freedom sooner. I do like reading this book and it is my very first Sarah J. Maas book. I like how easy it is to read this book even though this book is thick. I feel like I am reading a reality show full of dramas to make this brick more entertaining. There is quite a lot of world building done in the first 100 pages. Essentially, it is about how the Crescent City is constructed in terms of their power, but once you get through all this boring world building, it is rewarding to see how Bryce and Hunt work together. There are chemistries between them which helps them to open up their hearts and building up to the smut. I don't want to go too deep about it because it is quite erotic. There are twists pointing who should be responsible for the murders. I also find the last 150-ish pages really intense I didn't want to put it down because I want to find out how our characters get through this really dark period of time. It was just intense, it was just emotional. I was having a really good time reading this book, so I definitely will check the next book out, and it is already on the shelf here. The third book I finished in February is a historical fantasy, which is my favorite subgenre at the moment. It is also a book with less than 500 ratings on Goodreads, and I think this book deserves more love. It is The Judas Blossom by Stephen Iron, the first book of the Nightingale and the Falcon series. The only reason it was on my February TBR is because how stunning it looks like. Welcome to Judge a Book by its cover club. This book was based on Mongolian invasion of Persia in the 13th century. In the very beginning of the book, it says that this book is based on true history. Only when/who did something was rearranged for the plot progress. In this book, we're gonna follow 4 POVs. The first one is the Mongolian Khan called Hulaku, who is a very ambitious person to try to expand the Mongolian territory to Persia or even as far as Egypt. The second one is a Mongolian prince who was also Hulagu's son. He is called Temujin. He is a little bit fat and seems unfit to the Mongolian standard. The third one is a princess married to Hulagu who is called Kokojin. This happens only because her clans want to sit on the throne, but ultimately they were all killed. The leftover Kokojin therefore married to the Mongolian Khan, Hulagu. The last one is a Persian rebel called Kafon, who accidentally became the general of Hulagu. Yes, everything is about this Mongolian Khan. Kafon will act like a spy, step by step, taking the power out of Hulagu, and hopefully he could liberate Persia. There are some fantasy elements in this historical fantasy, but it seems that it is a little bit overpowerful in this world. But I am curious about how this power gonna evolve in the next 2 books. I really like the fact that to see how these rebels work together, step by step, doing something little here and there. But in a bigger picture, it would weaken the power of the Khan and his ruling. If you are into historical fantasies or political games, or even to see how the spy network's gonna work, I think this is a book for you. Also, the battle scenes here are brutal and bloody. The writing and the description of it makes you feel like you are in the middle of a battlefield, and it is just so real. The only thing I would say about it is the length of this book. It is definitely on the shorter side. It is roughly 400 pages long, so only by the end of it you will feel like things are getting heated up, getting real. But overall, I do have a good time reading this book, and I would definitely read the sequel in summer. After reading so many decent, good fantasy books, here comes to the biggest setback of the month. The very first book I have to DNF halfway through. It is The Principle of Moments by Esme Jackimi Pearson. In short, I didn't like this book. We're gonna follow a couple of POVs in this book. Firstly, it is in the year of 6000 when human was enslaved. Asha wanted to save her mom and a lost sister she has never met in her life from the Empire. In the 18th century London, Obi accidentally touched a device that made him teleport to the timeline of Asha, but he suffered from a disease, one that made him lose a part of himself when he time travels. With this chance teleported to the 60th century, he hoped that he could find a cure to this mysterious disease. The very main reason I have to put this book down is because of the writing style. Each chapter is just way too long and it is usually over 20 pages, but it is repetitive and sometimes confusing. Let's say in the very beginning of a chapter, our main characters come up with an idea. Just a couple of pages later, there would be a direct quotation of that idea within the same chapter. Also, when we meet mysterious figures that our characters don't know, when they are fighting without the mysterious characters even introducing themselves, the name suddenly pop out. By the end of some chapters, there may be a quotation from the legends, but those are just an exact summary of what had happened in that chapter, so you can easily point out who now is who in the legend. Besides, sometimes I need to think about when this event take place exactly. There are also some minor logical issues. Let's say someone who never drive a plane before, just by simulation, she could fly a plane without any troubles. Do you think that make any sense? I know that the author may start writing this book when she is in her teenager, but I just find that there are quite a lot of things that can be improved on. So with all these reasons, even though I am halfway through of this book, I have to DNF you. Sorry. I forgot to take out my bookmark. I thought I may come back to it, but I don't think so. Coming to the last book, it is an indie Japanese-inspired fantasy, and it is The Blood of Outcasts by D.A. Smith. It is a revenge story about Masako, the hawk, against the Lord Council, who murdered her clan, her master, and also herself. Bringing back to life by some special power, the hawk won't let the Lord Council to walk away easily. Teaming up with the Thousand Hands, the mercenary, they will gather the resources and manpower to blackmail the powerful ones. Tackling the problems from the Lord Council, they wanted to unite all the other lords who distrust the Lord Council and hopefully work together to take them down. This book is written in the first person present tense, so we are in the head of the hawk all the time. But she is such a determined character. What she wants is just revenge to the Lord Council. So sometimes it may be a little bit challenging to get through because she is such a difficult character. All I can remember about her is her special power, the blood magic. When she drinks blood, she will get powerful, so she always have a god to store the blood by her side. Personally, I like the first half of the book because at that time they got no resources, so they have to make money to build up their power. But getting to the second half of the book, the political interests are getting a little bit overcomplicated, maybe because the characters, places, titles, mythical creatures, they are in Japanese English. I find it difficult to follow all these laws, or their wives, or their sons, what happened between them or what happened in the past. So I started to lose interest by the second half of the book. To be very honest, I'm not sure would I continue on this series even though I got the sequel on the shelf, because I don't really care what would happen to our characters. So here are all the physical books that I have read in February. Besides all these books, I also listened to my very first audiobook, which is The Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, it is Sarah J. Maas again. I chose this YA series only because I wanted something easier to follow, as it is my very first time listening to one. Overall, I had a good time listening to this book. This book is not overly complicated, and the narrator brought the story to life. I can still remember how she gonna do some voices to some characters. I believe quite a lot of you have read it already, but just in case, let's talk about what this book is about. Throne of Glass is about an assassin called Selena who wanted to be the king's champion so that one day she could be free. In this book, she needs to go through quite a lot of challenges, but something dark happening at the same time. So there will be quests, fights, mysteries, and of course, you are reading Sarah J. Maas, there will be romance. By the end of the story, it looks like Selena had made a choice about it. I had a good time listening to it, so I would definitely keep on with this series. Hopefully, I could finish it by the end of summer. So here comes to the tier ranking of all the books that I have read in February. On tops, I would say we have 3 books. One is The Judas Blossom, one is House of Earth and Blood, and also we got Voyage of the Damned. These 3 are just great, and I don't know which one is on top, so they are all in the same tier. Below is The Throne of Glass, and under it we got The Blood of Outcasts. In the bottom, of course, it is the DNF, the Principle of Moments. I really have a great reading month. Let me know in a comment how is yours. Do you have a favorite of the month, or do you have a DNF like me? Let me know in a comment. So if you have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I will see you real soon. Goodbye.